Lesson 6 has us reading another poem titled Song of the Voyageurs. Now, as you're instructed on this first page, before you're reading it, you're going to listen to it. And while you're listening, you have a specific task to do. Then after listening, you have an assignment to do here as well. And you're going to respond to these questions. Now, this is the first time you've had to respond more formally to the questions. And this is where you're going to want to use that handout that follows right here and go through these procedures. It's very important. Think about these things when you write your response. Read the question carefully. You may want to reread it several times just to make sure you're understanding exactly what it's asking and you're getting all of the question. Answer using your own ideas, but also use examples from the text for support. And you'll want to learn to use quotation marks and cite these examples properly. Then you want to, when you're finished writing your response, you're going to check the quality of it by asking yourself these questions. Have I answered all the parts of the question? Does my answer show that I understand the text? Have I connected this reading to my own experience, my own background knowledge, or something that I've read or seen before? Those connections are important, and those are things we do usually unconsciously as we're reading. These thoughts are going through your mind. Have I provided ideas from the text to support my answer? Very important to make sure you're up that level into level 5. And did I show deep thinking? That's the level 5. You can just show the generalized thoughts and you're going to be down at a 3 all the time. Did I show deep thinking? Did I do more than just retell? Is it insightful? Insightful means something that maybe somebody else hasn't thought of. It shows a great deal of thought put into something unusual. And did you include something others may not have thought of? There you go. So to read this rubric, your grade is across the top with the first 5 being what you're looking for. Great work. And in one word, it can be summed up as insightful. A 4 could be thoughtful. A 3 would be just general. 2 is very simplistic. And 1 just isn't good enough. It's inadequate. Down the left-hand side, this shows your understanding of the text. My answer shows a thorough understanding of the text, whereas a 4 is strong, a 3 is adequate, a 2 is limited, and a 1 is not adequate, inadequate. The second criteria, did you address the prompt or the question? I answered all parts of it thoroughly. In number 4, yeah, I answered all the parts. Number 3, I answered most of them. 2, I answered some of them. And 1, I really didn't answer them well at all. The fourth criteria is providing support. And this is something that you have to get better and better at. It's looking more as you mature with your writing and with your reading. You have to support what you say. Always justify the response. So to get a 5, you would have to have a given full and important details from the text to support your answer. And again, these are usually cited in quotations, sometimes indirectly though, but it's always good to give at least one direct quotation whenever possible. And make sure that they're well-chosen details. So you've got full and important here. In a 4, you've got many details. 3 is some. 2 is just a few vague details. And number 1, they're irrelevant. That means they were not chosen well. They don't really support your argument, or you didn't give any support. The final criteria is making connections between the text and yourself. A 5 means that my answer shows perceptive and sophisticated connections. Those are pretty big words. But perceptive, that means I really got it. I really understood what the author was saying. And sophisticated, that means that the way that I have sophisticated means that it's going to be a little bit more complicated. Okay, it's hard to describe that. As you can see, I'm struggling here to describe sophisticated. It's if you look down at the other descriptors, it may be easier. Here it's thoughtful. Here it's straightforward. Two is limited. So sophisticated is just that step above where the language that you use to communicate things is important, that the connections you've made are not just one step away from the thing, but maybe you've gone through a trail that you have to have your reader follow. So hopefully that gives you some idea as to how to grade yourself and what you're really looking for when you're responding to a question. This kind of thing is like an interview where you don't really want to have yes, no answers. Um, and even if someone gives you the opportunity, if you are being interviewed, to say yes or no, you wouldn't just say yes. You would elaborate on that. Why are you saying yes? What is the background of that? What are the connections of that? So that's the kind of idea. Just really good conversation, just like good oral conversation. You'll be using this rubric quite often during the units and during this course, so I'm not going to go through it completely like this again, but hopefully if you need to, you can always refer back to this recording. You might want to jot that down. And again, you definitely do want to print off this page and put it in the front of your writing response journals section. Page 4 talks about the characterization and the symbolism that you'll find. So you can just read through that. Then we get into your doing the writing. There's a handout to do to get you warmed up on punctuating poems, and then it talks about how you're going to do the writing and what's expected of it. There's the handout, and here's the criteria for writing the poem. So you want to look at this before you're writing so you can see what the expectations are. At the bottom of the page, you've got a way to differentiate. Instead of writing this poem, so you want to make sure you note that first, because the poem can be, this assignment can be a little advanced. It's a good challenge, but instead you could create a poster or brochure as suggested here. And there's some information on creating the poster if that's your choice. This is quite a long, lengthy lesson, and here we're dealing with the illustrations. We've talked about the text, and now we're talking about the picture that goes along with it, because viewing is also one of the strands in English language arts. It's a way to communicate meaning. So we are going to compare the illustration that's in your text, your Crossroads text, with the one that I've shown you here. Then on page 10 we start doing the language part of the lesson, and that's the pronouns. And an extension, and it follows with a sheet that you should be doing, and then your checklist of activities.